Anna hadn't been to her uncle's cabin in years. In her memory, it had been a place of laughter, a pocket of summer carved from time, a sanctuary. She remembered the smell of pine wood after rain, the loamy perfume of earth baking beneath the sun, the whine of cicadas at dusk, and the sizzle of fish her Uncle Mark fried in a pan, blackened with decades of grease. She remembered sitting cross-legged by the fire, her father beside Mark, both men trading stories about climbing mountains and canoeing rivers as if the world beyond the tree line did not exist. Now, older and weary from the grind of medical school, night shifts, textbooks stacked like fortresses, exams that hollowed her eyes, Anna returned with a different perspective. The cabin no longer stood at the heart of her summers. It stood at the far edge of her memory, like something half buried. When she stepped out of Mark's truck and looked at it again, she caught her breath. It looked smaller, and lonelier, and wrong in some subtle way she could not name. But Mark's arms came around her shoulders, strong and warm, grounding her in a way the city never could. "You needed air," he said, voice gravelly from years of ranger work and wood smoke. "These woods still got some left if you'll listen for it." She smiled despite herself, hugging him tighter. "Thanks, Anki." The pet name made him grin. "There's my girl. City hasn't stolen your soul yet." "Not yet," she said, pulling her bag from the truck bed. "But it's tried. Medical school is like being dropped into a pit full of rats, and instead of climbing out, you're expected to memorize their anatomy." Mark barked a laugh. "Sounds like torture. You sure you didn't sign up for law school instead?" "Don't even joke," she said, but her smile lingered. "Law students at least get to sleep." He hefted her bag easily, despite the size. "Sleep is overrated. My dad used to say, the grave is full of folks who slept too much." "Comforting," she muttered, rolling her eyes. That evening, they sat by the fire ring, the flames gnashing sparks into the star-pricked sky. Mark sipped from a chipped enamel mug of coffee, while Anna leaned close, letting the warmth unknot the tension of hospital shifts and late-night study halls. The woods pressed close, the trees tall and watchful, and though the fire hissed and popped, a silence sat behind it all, a silence that seemed to wait. Anna poked the flames with a stick. "It feels emptier than I remember." Mark tilted his head, studying the trees as if they were old acquaintances. Sometimes the woods get quiet before they decide to speak. "Spoken like a ranger philosopher," she smirked. "Do you rehearse lines like that when you're alone?" He chuckled. "Nah, the trees whisper 'em. I just steal the credit." Anna snorted. "Dad used to say you could make even a flat tire sound like destiny." His grin faltered into something softer. "Your dad exaggerates, but we did some stupid things here. Rapids we weren't ready for. Rope climbs we had no business trying. Thought your grandma would kill us both." Her heart warmed. "He still talks about you, you know. He's living in Switzerland now. Sent me a photo last week. Looked unreal, like a painting." Mark leaned back, eyes glinting in the firelight. "That man's half mountain goat. Never could keep both feet on flat ground. Always chasing some higher ledge." "Guess it runs in the family." "Runs in the blood," he corrected. Then more quietly, "Never skips a generation." Anna's brow furrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" He only smiled, but there was weight behind it. "Nothing bad. Just, you've got more spine than you think. All those nights in hospitals, all that pressure, and here you are, still standing." She shrugged, embarrassed. "Standing's easy. It's everything else that's hard." Mark reached over and squeezed her hand, the roughness of his palm grounding her. "That's where the strength shows, Anna, in the everything else." The warmth between them felt eternal, safe. But then, out of the darkness, beyond the wood line, came the footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, the sound of something trying to mimic human walking, yet each step carried too much weight, as if dragging an unseen burden. The ground seemed to answer with vibrations that crawled up Anna's spine. Her smile vanished. "Uncle Mark?" "Yeah," he said softly, rising to his feet. "Stay close to the fire." The stone came from nowhere. It arced through the dark like a projectile of warning, shrieked in the night air, and struck the fire dead center. Embers leapt violently, sparks flying into the sky, and the coals scattered like tiny, burning stars. The heat stung Anna's skin, clinging to her jeans and hair, and the sharp scent of smoke rose into her nose. "Ouch!" she cried, voice breaking with reflexive fear. Mark's eyes were already scanning the shadows, seeking the perpetrator. "Inside! Now!" They stumbled across the short clearing, the forest pressing in around them, every tree a silent witness. The cabin's door yawned open, and Mark slammed it shut behind them, dropping the heavy oak crossbar into place. Dust rained down from the frame. The interior was dark, shadows crouching in every corner. Mark pressed a hand to the door as if he could hold back the night itself. Anna's voice trembled. "Uncle Mark, tell me this isn't real." He turned, eyes sharp, gaze steady on the dark beyond the walls. "Real doesn't even begin to cover it. Watch the windows, but don't go near them." Mark moved quickly to the mantel, lifting the hunting rifle he kept there for emergencies. Its stock was walnut, the steel blued and cold in his hands, a weapon built for finality. Each cartridge clicked into place, heavy brass against steel, and the sound was like a heartbeat against the silence. Taking every precaution, he handed Anna his pistol, which he kept in his holster. They were both going to be armed and deadly. Then, reaching down, he grabbed the CB microphone mounted near the window. "Dalton? Sheriff Dalton?" "It's Mark Byrne," he said, voice taut. "Something's attacking the cabin. Not a bear, not a cougar. Something bigger, stronger, smarter, dangerous. I need help immediately." Static hissed, the forest pressing against the cabin walls. Dalton's voice finally came, cautious, skeptical, thick with doubt. "Mark, what exactly are you saying? What's attacking you? Are you serious?" "I'm serious," Mark said, jaw tight. "It's huge. Moves like a man, but not a man. Claws, strength enough to rip through wood. Anna's here with me." "Oh God, Anna's there?" Dalton whispered. "Yes," Mark said, urgency sharpening every word. "She's here. I need rifles, men, floodlights, lights, everything you've got. Move, now." Dalton hesitated. "Mark, have you been drinking? You sound... I don't know. This sounds impossible." Mark's hand slammed the table. "Drinking, Dalton. We've been friends for 30 years. 30 years. You know me. You know what I can handle. Anna is here. I'm here. We're in danger. Get your men moving now. Stop questioning me and start acting." The line erupted with commands as Dalton shouted into the office, calling orders to the deputies. "Move! Grab rifles! Get out there! Quick! Damn it! Every second counts!" Then, chaos struck. The window exploded inwards. A massive black arm smashed through, claws anchoring into the wood. It seized Mark by the shoulder and hurled him across the room, slamming him against the hearth. Bricks and ash exploded into the air. The CB microphone toppled, wires snapping, sparks flying. Slowly, the creature's claws ripped it off the wall and dragged it into the shadows outside, vanishing from sight. Static died. Silence pressed in, broken only by the fire's weak crackle and Anna's ragged breaths. Anna pressed a dish towel to Mark's arm, shaking violently. "Stay with me, Unky. You're okay. You're still here." Mark groaned, wincing, blinking through the pain and smoke. "Alive. That's what matters. We're still alive." He pushed himself up, shaking off the daze, eyes locking on the high-powered hunting rifle located above the fireplace. Lifting it, loading it, each metallic click resonated through the cabin, anchoring them in the moment. Outside, the skinwalker pressed against the door, claws gouging deep, dust and splinters drifting down like slow rainfall. "Steady, Anna," Mark whispered. "Watch its rhythm. Don't fire too soon." Time stretched. The door groaned from the unseen pressure, claws scraping oak, splintering wood groaning. Then the rifle thundered, breaking holes in the door. Smoke and splintered wood filled the room. They saw the creature stagger through the bullet holes, recoiling into shadow, disappearing once more. Silence followed, broken only by the soft crackle of the fire and their trembling lungs. They crouched together, whispers threading through the tension. "Do you think we got it?" Anna asked, fragile. "Slowed it, maybe. Nothing more," Mark murmured, brushing her hand briefly. "We've only bought ourselves time, Anna. Time to think, to plan, to survive." The front door again shuddered under invisible pressure. Dust rained down from the cabin roof. The shadows beyond seemed to pulse. Anna and Mark didn't move, instead whispered words passed between them, quiet, grounding, almost intimate. "Unkai, do we have to?" "Yes, further back, to the garage. That's our only shot," he whispered, hand brushing her hair, rough but careful. "We stay together. We survive together." For a long moment, they stared at the gaping doorway, weapons trained, breath shallow. Outside, the forest waited. Inside, the fire crackled weakly, light retreating from the corners. And in that stillness, they prepared themselves for the next move. They retreated slowly, Mark taking the lead, Anna close behind him, every step deliberate, as though hurrying might provoke the thing that stalked them. Each door they passed was locked behind them with an old brass key that jingled faintly on a ring Mark kept clipped to his belt. The metallic scrape of tumblers turning echoed far too loudly in the stillness, like a hammer blow in a cathedral. Anna's trembling fingers brushed one of the locks as she closed a door. Why were all the doors locked inside the house, Uncle Mark? Her whisper was sharp with unease, like a violin string drawn too tight. Always have been, he murmured back. His face was grim in the dim light, eyes flicking from shadow to shadow. When I bought the place, every door had one. Surprised you never noticed. Maybe the last owner knew something we didn't. His words slithered into her thoughts like a snake. Knew something like what? What nightmare were we walking into when we stepped across this threshold? And why did it feel like we'd stepped into someone else's unfinished story? Someone who had lived in fear long before us? They pushed through the final hallway. The air changed subtly, growing heavier, tinged with the acrid sting of gasoline and machine oil. The garage opened around them, dimly lit, the concrete floor slick with shadows. Tools hung on hooks, gleaming dully. A coil of rope swayed as if stirred by unseen fingers. Anna's head throbbed. Her ears rang, her chest tight as though invisible hands pressed against her. And then, it spoke. Her name, warped, elongated, a guttural growl that clawed its way out of the dark. Ah! The syllables slid over her like cold grease. Her stomach lurched. Bile burned the back of her throat. The voice didn't just speak her name. It claimed it. Her whisper shook. Uncle Mark, it knows me. He crouched beside her, his weathered hand covering hers. We trap it, he said, voice low, urgent but steady. Storm shelter in the floor, lid open. We spread the oil, make the floor slick. It comes for us, it falls in. We slam it shut. We stay behind it where it can't reach. You follow me, Anna. Don't hesitate. You hear me? She nodded, her throat too tight to answer. His hand squeezed hers once, grounding her, before he moved. The steel lid of the shelter groaned as Mark lifted it. Hinges protested like old bones. The black mouth gaped in the floor, swallowing the dim light. Anna shuddered, the sight suggesting an open grave. Together, they poured the oil. The pungent fumes coiled upward, heavy and dizzying. It spread across the concrete like a dark mirror, reflecting their pale faces, reflecting the quiver in Anna's lips as she tried to steady her breathing. They crouched behind the open shelter, backs pressed to the wall, weapons ready. Their hearts thudded in perfect rhythm, as though the same invisible hand clutched them both. The silence stretched, a silence not empty but full, of presence, of waiting, of the breath of a predator crouched just beyond sight. Anna's thoughts spiraled. Why me? Why does it know my name? What will it do when it catches me? Why does it feel like it already has? Mark whispered. Stay sharp. And then the storm broke. The creature lunged into the garage. Its bulk shattered the frame of the inner door as though it were paper. Shadows convulsed across the walls as its form blotted out the dim light. Its eyes gleamed with unnatural hunger. Anna's breath hitched, frozen between scream and silence. It charged toward her. For one instant, she swore it smiled. Its claws slashed at her, but its massive body hit the oil. The sound was grotesque, a squeal, a skid, like wet leather dragged across glass. The skinwalker lost its balance, momentum carrying it forward. It fell. The storm shelter swallowed it whole. Mark's roar filled the garage. Now! They threw their combined weight against the steel lid, slamming it shut. The clang reverberated through the concrete, shaking the tools on the walls, rattling Anna's teeth. The thing hit the walls of the shelter below with thunderous force. It thrashed, snarled, a nightmare come alive beneath their feet. The door jolted upward under its strength, lifting Anna off the ground by inches. Anna's scream burst free. It's too strong. Hold it, Mark barked, straining with all his weight. Don't let it push us back. Her muscles screamed. Fear shot through her veins like fire, burning and cold all at once. We're gonna lose it. It's going to come out. It's going to take me. A clawed hand thrust through the narrow gap. Its talons scraped against steel, showering sparks. The stench of its breath, rot and sulfur, spewed upward. Anna, down! She ducked instinctively. Mark leveled the rifle at point-blank range and fired. The shot cracked like the wrath of God, deafening, echoing through the garage. One talon shattered, fragment flying across the room, clinking against the concrete. The skinwalker's howl bellowed from below, a sound so full of hate it vibrated through her bones. The clawed hand retreated into the darkness. Together, They shoved the lid closed, forcing it down against the beast's writhing strength. The latch slammed into place. Silence for just a breath. Both of them collapsed backward, gasping, sweat shining on their foreheads. Anna clutched her uncle's sleeve. "Uncle Mark, it's not human." Her voice was tiny, brittle. His arm came around her shoulder, steadying. "No, it's not, but it bleeds. That means it can die." His voice was grim, but laced with the fierce certainty of a man who had lived long enough to know that survival wasn't about being fearless. It was about refusing to surrender. From beneath the steel, a faint scrape echoed. Not gone, not beaten, only caged. For now. Breath ragged, lungs stinging with the exertion. They stumbled toward the pickup. Anna grabbed the heavy red gasoline can from the bed of the truck and staggered back into the blackness of the garage. The stench of the oil was suffocating, sharp and chemical, coating her tongue with bitterness. Her hands trembled as she poured, the liquid sloshing across the concrete floor, spreading in shimmering rivulets. Each drop echoed faintly, unnervingly loud in the roaring silence. Mark tore a sheet from an old newspaper and touched it to the flame of his lighter. For a heartbeat, the little flame was fragile, a flicker of hope trembling in the suffocating dark. Then he hurled it into the spreading puddle. The explosion was instant. Flames rushed across the floor like a living beast released from a cage, racing over the gasoline, curling upward along the walls. A roaring filled the garage as oxygen vanished, the air growing blisteringly hot in seconds. Shadows leapt across the walls, jagged, monstrous. Sparks erupted into the night, spiraling upward as though the stars themselves had fallen into the inferno. Anna staggered backward, throwing an arm across her face. The heat pressed against her skin like a smothering hand. Her heart hammered. "We're burning it out. This is the only way. This is the end." Hesitating for only a momentary glance back at the inferno of the garage, they climbed into the pickup truck, shadows dancing across the dirt drive in front of them. But the end did not come. A metal sound echoed like a shotgun blast through the woods. The skinwalker had smashed through the steel storm shelter door, ripping it off its hinges and catapulting through the roof of the burning dwelling. A hellish vision of disjointed, flame-engulfed body emerged out of the garage. Out of the smoke, it descended on them, claws raking across the hood of the truck with a metallic shriek that ripped through the air like the tearing of the world itself. Sparks cascaded down, showering them in orange light. The truck rocked violently under the impact. Anna screamed, her hands fumbling for the rifle. "It's on us, Uncle Mark!" "Keep your head down," he barked, twisting the key in the ignition. The engine coughed once, sputtered, then fell silent, dead. The claws came again, slicing deep furrows in the steel roof. Metal peeled back in strips, curling like paper. Moonlight and smoke bled in through the fresh wounds. The sound was unbearable, a screeching, metallic wail that set Anna's teeth on edge, as if the truck itself were crying out in pain. "Uncle Mark, it's coming through." "Then shoot it, girl." Anna braced the rifle against the dash, hands slippery with sweat. The muzzle wavered as her heart pounded, threatening to drive the shot wild. Through the torn steel, a shape loomed, black eyes gleaming with inhuman hunger. She pulled the trigger. The blast tore through the night. The roof buckled. Something screeched in fury. Then the weight lifted. A heavy thud shook the bed of the truck before vanishing into the trees. Mark floored the accelerator. "Hold on!" Tires screamed against gravel, then bit deep. They lurched forward, fire reflecting off the windshield, trees rising tall and dark on either side, their branches writhing in the heat like skeletal arms. Smoke clung to the canopy, curling between trunks, choking out stars. Anna clutched the rifle across her lap, knuckles white, every muscle trembling. Her chest felt tight, as if her ribs were too fragile to contain her pounding heart. "It's still out there," she whispered, half to herself. "I can feel it, Uncle Mark. It's not gone." His jaw was stone. His eyes stayed fixed on the road. "It's hurt, but hurt don't mean dead." The forest seemed to close in around them, the fire behind painting everything in hellish orange. Shadows twisted, stretched, and for one terrible moment, Anna thought she saw it running alongside the truck, a flash of pale claws, a gleam of red eyes keeping pace with them in the underbrush. Her breath hitched. "Uncle Mark, it's..." "Don't look," he said sharply. "Focus forward. Don't give it your fear. Fear feeds it." She clutched his arm, the words slipping from her lips without thought, the way it had when she was little. His hand brushed hers briefly, firm and warm, before returning to the wheel. "I've got you, Anna. Always." The road ahead widened. Through the haze, flashing red and blue lights cut through the smoke-heavy air, stuttering across the tree trunks like ghostly lightning. 9 police cruisers crouched in the clearing ahead, their lights throwing color over the drifting haze. The sirens had been killed, but the engines growled low, restless, and the scene looked less like rescue and more like some strange purgatory, caught between fire and shadow. Anna exhaled in a shudder. For one suspended heartbeat, she almost believed they were safe. Then the voice came again. "Anna!" It rose from the woods behind them, guttural and stretched, warped like the tape of a dying recorder. Her blood turned to ice. Her heart seemed to stop, then slam painfully back into rhythm. Every muscle locked. "No," she whispered, her fingers dug into the seat. "Uncle Mark, it knows me. It won't stop." "Don't answer it," Mark said tightly, his hand gripping the wheel until the knuckles gleamed white. His eyes never left the cruisers ahead, the salvation and the danger. "Don't you give it the power of your voice." The troopers raised their rifles, barrels lifting in unison toward the tree line. For an instant, the night seemed to hold its breath. Then the woods exploded. Gunfire thundered through the clearing, rifles barking in rapid rhythm, the flashes strobing the smoke like wartime lightning. The smell of gunpowder bit the air, sharp and hot. Echoes slammed off the trunks and rolled back through the night. Anna clapped her hands over her ears, but the blasts still rattled her skull, drowning out thought. Shapes seemed to twist in the smoke at the edge of the forest. Shadows flinched, shifted, leapt back into darkness. The monster was there. She could feel it in her marrow, but it refused to show itself fully. The firing slowed, then stopped. The smoke drifted between the cruisers, white tendrils curling like fingers. The silence that followed was worse than the gunfire, an oppressive, breathless void, as though the entire forest crouched to listen. Finally, the sheriff's voice cut through, steady but ragged. "Enough!" The command hung in the night, heavy as stone. The silence deepened. The only sound was the crackling of the garage fire behind them. The hiss of pine sap bursting in the flames, the whisper of ash falling on dry needles. Anna sagged against the seat, every ounce of strength bleeding out of her bones. Her body felt hollowed, a shell barely able to hold breath. "It's over," she whispered, though the words tasted like ash. Saying it didn't make it true. Mark reached across the seat, his rough hand finding hers, anchoring her in the madness. His palm was warm, steady. He gave her fingers a gentle squeeze. "We survived," he said, voice low, nearly a whisper. His gaze stayed locked on the forest, watching, waiting. "That's all that matters tonight. Alive. That's what counts." Her eyes burned with smoke and tears. She wanted to believe him. She wanted those words to carve a wall between them and the thing that still prowled the night. But deep inside, where dreams are born and nightmares take root, she knew the truth. The voice was not done with her. Years later, Anna awoke in her city apartment, breath ragged, skin damp with cold sweat. The sheets were tangled around her legs, twisted tight from her thrashing. Her heart pounded as though she'd been running for miles. The dream still clung to her, sticky as cobwebs. The voice calling her name, stretched and inhuman. The roar of fire consuming the cabin, claws raking through steel, the smell of gasoline and blood. No matter how many years had passed, it always returned the same, sharp as broken glass in her mind. She sat up, pressing her palms against her face. The city murmured faintly through the windows. A distant siren, the hum of traffic, a dog barking far below. The sounds should have been comforting, ordinary, human, but tonight they felt thin, fragile, like paper stretched over darkness. Her phone glowed on the nightstand. 3:30 a.m. Anna hesitated, staring at the digits as though they had been carved for her alone. Then, with trembling fingers, she picked it up and pressed the call. It rang only once. "Still having that nightmare?" Mark's voice was calm, steady, grounding as bedrock. Even through the static, his tone wrapped around her like a warm blanket. Her throat tightened. She sank back against the pillows, closing her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "The same one. Every time. The fire, the voice. It doesn't stop." There was a pause. She heard him exhale, long and weary. "I know. I get it too. Some nights it comes for me. Not as often now, but it's always waiting." Tears slid down her cheeks, hot against the chill of sweat. "Do you think it's still out there?" Another silence, longer this time. She could almost see him, sitting in his old armchair, staring at nothing, jaw set in that way it always was when he didn't want her to see fear. "I think," he said slowly, "some things never leave. They just wait for you in the dark. Maybe out in those woods, maybe just in here." She heard him tap a finger against his temple. She shivered, pulling the blanket tight around her shoulders. "I hate the voice most of all, the way it says my name." "I know, Anna." His voice softened. "But it's not in this room with you. It's not touching you. It's not taking you from me. You remember that. You're stronger than it wants you to believe." For a while, neither of them spoke. The city outside droned on, a counterpoint to the silence between them. Finally, Anna let out a breath she hadn't known she was holding. "Thank you, Uncle Mark, for always being there, even now." "You don't need to thank me. I told you once, and I'll tell you 100 times. I've got you. Always." Her chest eased, the grip of the nightmare loosening just enough to let her breathe. When they finally ended the call, she lay in the half-dark, staring at the ceiling. Sleep would not come again. Not tonight. But for now, with his voice still echoing in her ears, she wasn't afraid. And yet, as the minutes ticked toward dawn, she swore she heard, beneath the hum of the city, under the grind of distant tires, the faintest whisper threading through the dark. "Anna!" She pressed the pillow tight over her ears, heart hammering.